Hey guys, what is up and welcome to our very first Wasabi Mouth reviews. So thanks so much for tuning in and clicking on that thumbnail to get to this small yet awesome channel. Today we are reviewing the newest release MOBA FPS Battleborn. So without further ado, let's dive on in. Now, as for our review, I like to start off saying that this is definitely some fresh work from Gearbox and 2K Games. Gearbox has definitely had their successful rounds with shooters much like Borderlands, and 2K Games with their sporty stuff like NBA and WWE. But bouncing from that, this game is definitely not a bad game, but I can say it's going to be a hit or miss for sure. Some might find its functionality a little rusty, yet easy to become familiar with, as well as still having some left over on your plate. And by that, I mean you have a list of 25 characters to really become acquainted with, not only gameplay-wise, but even voice actors of those characters as well. So even the anime fans really have something to get really hyped for, because there are some really awesome voices, and not only that, but they are familiar as well, so that is definitely something to really, lean towards about that game. But as for character development, not many PvP games will get an easy to get to or understandable story to it. Granted, the story is kind of cookie cutter, with the big bad guy who starts wrecking stuff, and these heroes called Battleborns unite to stop this completely original madman, but each character definitely comes with their own personality, which becomes easily enjoyable through its campaign mode, and that's not surprising coming from Gearbox. So for that section in the game, we rated this spiciness an 8 out of 10, only docking points for the fact that there's a lot of characters to get personal with all at once, but that's going to be a given for a PvP game, and variety is definitely good, but that still means it will take quite some time to get a hand on the characters, so this is definitely not a drawback, but keep in mind of what to expect really. Now, accessibility. This often goes back and forth between players. Most characters are point and shoot, and for this being a MOBA, this is definitely where it gets a bit weird. In all the MOBAs I've played, you didn't need accuracy, or at least enough to really have a need for precision, but Battleborn truly requires you to be on point, as if hip firing on Call of Duty. Now, it's not to that exact extent, but it comes pretty close. But as for actually hitting the enemy player, you don't exactly get that compensating feeling for hitting your target. Sure, there's a hit marker, but you don't get that satisfying thud sound you would get from games like Battlefield or Call of Duty. It's sometimes an overlooked detail, but it's small, but it goes a very long way is what I can definitely say about it. But other than that, their leveling system is pretty awesome. Each time you level up, you have a choice of deciding between two perks to get the upper hand on the enemy player, which makes it new user friendly. There aren't too many downsides to knowing the skills and the faction of your character, but it's the general feel of its accessibility. But to top off this section of the game, this spiciness tops a 7 out of 10, taking a few points for those things that made it an oddball for the MOBA genre, but it's understandable for being the first of its kind. Now, on to playability. When I say this, I definitely speak out to gaming vets and newbies for the MOBA or FPS genres. This is definitely a fresh new piece of gaming for you. You're definitely going to see some familiar touches from each genre, but the big question is it enough to keep you interested? Well, I honestly can't guarantee you an answer on that, because I personally rented the game, and I always recommended others to rent it before buying it, because it will be a hit or miss. Now, for anyone who's loved the work Gearbox has provided once before, this is most likely your thing, especially if you happen to be an anime fan. But for those MOBA and FPS players, this is definitely going to be a little bit of an oddball for you. You're bound to see some things you haven't before, whether it's a steampunk robot playing against a multi-armed pyromaniac, or discovering that, hey, this game is about objective, not how many player kills you can get. But seriously though, I can definitely say I highly recommend giving this game a shot, or at least a second look. You never know what this game is going to be able to provide you with, so for this part of the game, it's getting a spice level of 6 out of 10. Drawing points for it just being a hit or miss in general, but for it whether it's going to be enough for you to come back or not. As much as we all wish every game was perfect, we just rarely ever see that happen, but most games can come pretty close. But as for this title, it's not perfect, but it's a pioneer between two genres of gaming, so you've really got to hand it to them and cut them some slack, because this is a very good idea, and Gearbox gave it a lot of character and the perfect Gearbox touch to the title in general. And for those curious about the style of in-game play, you can clearly see a resemblance to that of Borderlands, but aside from that, I really encourage people to give this game a shot. As much it was overshadowed by other releases, it really deserves a chance, but overall, this game easily lands a 7 out of 10 in my personal perspective. Overall, some people in the end might disagree with this, but I rated this game based off of character development, accessibility, as well as playability, which usually make the general foundations of most video games. But bouncing off from that, thank you so much for watching, and be sure to tell me what you thought about Battleborn yourself down below in the comment section. Until next time guys, Wasabi out.